Elena Vasquez's legs gave out before she could reach the employee break room. Darkness edged her vision as the restaurant floor rushed up to meet her. The world had been spinning for hours, but she'd ignored it. The dinner rush at Bella Notte waited for no one, especially not a head waitress with rent due in 3 days. The crash of plates barely registered as her body hit the floor. Shouting voices faded into a distant hum. The last thing Elena remembered was being lifted, strong arms sliding beneath her, the scent of expensive cologne, and the shocked faces of her coworkers as someone carried her away from the chaos. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Elena woke to the soft beep of a heart monitor. Not a hospital room, the space was too luxurious, with floor-to-ceiling windows revealing Chicago's glittering skyline, designer furniture, expensive art on walls, a private nurse adjusting an IV in her arm. "Where am I?" Her voice came out raspy, throat painfully dry. "Mr. Rossi's penthouse?" the nurse answered, offering a cup of water with a straw. "You collapsed from severe dehydration and exhaustion. Your blood work showed you haven't been eating properly for weeks." Elena tried to sit up. "I need to get back to work. My shift ended 8 hours ago." The deep voice from the doorway made her freeze. Dante Rossi, the most feared man in Chicago, stood watching her with those piercing dark eyes that missed nothing. 6'3" of pure intimidation in a perfectly tailored suit. He moved into the room with predatory grace, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. Elena had served him countless times over the past year. Table 7, corner booth. Always arrived precisely at 8, always left a generous tip, always watched the room like he owned it because he did. Bella Notte was just one of many businesses under his control, though most patrons remained blissfully unaware they dined in a Mafia-owned establishment. "Mr. Rossi, I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. I'll reimburse you for what? The private doctor? The nurse? This suite?" He arched an eyebrow. "Don't insult me." Heat crept up her neck. "I need to go home. My daughter. Sophia is fine. She's with your mother." He sat in the chair beside her bed, his posture relaxed, but his eyes never leaving her face. "I had my driver take them grocery shopping earlier. Your refrigerator was empty." Anger flashed through her exhaustion. "You went to my apartment? You had no right." "I had every right after carrying you out of my restaurant unconscious." His voice remained calm, but something dangerous flickered in his gaze. 3 jobs, Elena? Community college classes? A 7-year-old daughter? When exactly do you sleep?" She stared at him. "How do you know all this?" "I make it my business to know everything about the people who work for me. I'm a waitress, not one of your—" She stopped herself. "One of my what?" A hint of amusement curved his mouth. "Criminals? Associates? Family members? You can say it. I'm not easily offended." Elena sank back against the pillows, suddenly aware of her vulnerability. This man controlled half of Chicago's underworld. Violence and power clung to him like an invisible cloak, yet he'd personally carried her from the restaurant, brought her to his home, arranged care for her daughter. "Why am I here instead of a hospital?" she asked finally. "Because I don't trust hospitals." Dante stood, buttoning his suit jacket. "Rest. We'll talk tomorrow." "About what?" He paused at the doorway. "Your new position." "I don't understand." "It's simple." His eyes held hers. "You work for me now. Directly. And if I refuse?" Dante's smile never reached his eyes. "You won't." The door closed behind him, leaving Elena alone with the quiet beeping of the monitor and the crushing weight of his words. "You work for me now. Not a request, not an offer, a statement of fact." Morning brought clarity and a pounding headache. Elena showered in the attached marble bathroom, using products that probably cost more than she made in a month. The nurse Miriam, she'd learned, had left clothes on the bed. Designer jeans and a cashmere sweater, tags still attached. Exactly her size. She'd just finished dressing when the door opened. Dante entered, followed by a middle-aged woman carrying a breakfast tray. "Sit, eat." He gestured to a small table by the window. "Doctor's orders." The woman Rosa, his housekeeper, set down the tray and left quietly. Eggs, toast, fruit, coffee. Simple but beautifully presented. Elena hadn't eaten a meal she hadn't prepared herself in months. "Where's my phone?" she asked, reluctantly taking a seat. "I need to call my mother." "Your mother and Sophia are fine." Dante sat across from her, sliding her phone across the table. I arranged for them to stay at my family's guest house in Lincoln Park for the time being. Elena nearly choked on her coffee. You moved them without asking me? Your apartment building had a gas leak. Convenient timing. His expression revealed nothing. The building's been evacuated for repairs. Could take weeks. A gas leak, she repeated flatly. How fortunate. His lips twitched. Isn't it? Elena checked her phone. 3 missed calls from her mother, a text saying they were comfortable, that Sophia was excited about the big backyard and the dog next door. No panic, no concern, just gratitude for Mr. Rossi's generosity. What exactly do you want from me? Elena set down her fork, appetite fading. Dante leaned back, studying her. You've worked at Bella Notte for 14 months. In that time, you've noticed things. Patterns. People who don't belong. Conversations that shouldn't happen. You watch and catalog everything, yet never speak of it. Her blood ran cold. I mind my own business. Precisely. You're observant, discreet, and intelligent. Too intelligent to be juggling 3 minimum wage jobs while drowning in medical debt. The shock must have shown on her face. Yes, I know about your ex-husband's addiction, the costs of Sophia's asthma treatments, the loans you took out to cover it all when he disappeared. Dante's voice softened marginally. I know you sleep 4 hours a night, that you haven't bought new clothes in years, that you're one emergency away from homelessness despite working yourself to collapse. Is this supposed to make me feel grateful? Elena pushed away her plate. That you've investigated my life? Invaded my privacy? No. It's meant to establish that I know your worth, and it's being wasted. My worth, she repeated. And what is that exactly? To start? He reached into his jacket, removed an envelope, and placed it on the table. $100,000. Elena stared at the envelope, then at him. What would I have to do for that kind of, become my personal assistant? He said it simply, as if offering her a slice of cake. You'll manage my schedule, coordinate with my security team, handle sensitive communications, and accompany me to certain meetings and events. You want me to be your secretary. I want you to be my right hand. There's a difference. He pushed the envelope closer. This is a signing bonus. Your annual salary would be $300,000, plus benefits, housing, and educational expenses for Sophia. The room seemed to tilt. Why me? Because you have what can't be taught. Dante leaned forward, intensity radiating from him. Natural vigilance, discretion, loyalty. You've supported your family alone for years, never complained, never sought easy money despite opportunities. You're invisible when needed and commanding when required. You're describing a criminal, not an assistant. I'm describing someone exceptional. He stood, straightening his already immaculate cuffs. Think about, the offer stands until tomorrow morning. And if I say no, then you return to your 3 jobs, your exhaustion, your looming eviction. I won't force you. His eyes held hers. But I don't think you'll say no. After he left, Elena opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside lay bundles of $100 bills, more money than she'd ever seen at once, money that could change everything for her and Sophia. But nothing came without a price, especially from a man like Dante Rossi. Elena's phone rang her mother. Elena, cariño, are you feeling better? Mr. Rossi explained everything. Mom, what did he tell you exactly? She pressed the phone closer to her ear. That you collapsed from overwork. That he's offering you a proper position with decent pay. Sophia loves it here. There's a little girl next door her age, and the schools nearby are excellent. Elena closed her eyes. Mom, this man is dangerous. He's powerful, not the same thing. Her mother's voice turned serious. He brought groceries himself, Elena, sat at the table and helped Sophia with her math homework while I cooked. He knows her teacher's name, her favorite subject, her shoe size. He's been watching over you both long before last night. A chill ran through Elena. That should terrify you. What terrifies me is watching my daughter work herself to death. Her mother sighed. Whatever he's offering, consider it. For Sophia's sake, if not your own. After hanging up, Elena stood at the window, looking out at the city spread below like a kingdom. Dante Rossi's kingdom. Somewhere down there was her old life, the endless shifts, the mounting bills, the constant fear of one missed payment destroying everything. A soft knock at the door preceded Miriam's entrance. Mr. Rossi asked if you'd like to see your daughter. His driver can bring her if you're feeling up to it. Elena nodded, unable to deny the longing to hold her child. An hour later, Sophia burst into the room, all boundless energy, and flying dark curls. "Mama, this place is so cool. Did you see the swimming pool? And Mr. Dante said I could use it any time." "Mr. Dante?" Elena raised her eyebrows, catching her daughter in a tight hug. "Uh-huh. He showed me his library and said I could borrow any books I want." Sophia pulled back, eyes serious. "Are you sick, Mama? Is that why you're here?" "No, baby. I was just tired and needed to rest." Elena smoothed her daughter's hair. "How was the guest house?" "It's huge. I have my own room with a canopy bed like a princess." Sophia grinned. "And Rosa made churros for breakfast." Elena forced a smile while her mind raced. Dante was systematically removing every obstacle to her acceptance housing, childcare, her mother's approval, even Sophia's happiness, creating an environment too perfect to reject. The door opened, and Dante appeared, a tablet in hand. He'd changed into more casual attire, dark jeans, and a charcoal sweater that did nothing to diminish his intimidating presence. "Sophia, would you mind if I borrowed your mother for a moment? Rosa has cookies in the kitchen." Her daughter beamed at him. "The chocolate ones?" "Of course." He smiled a genuine smile that transformed his face, and Elena felt something unexpected twist in her chest. After Sophia dashed out, Elena crossed her arms. "You're manipulating her. Manipulating this entire situation. I'm offering solutions." He approached, stopping a respectful distance away. "Look at this." He handed her the tablet. On screen was a property listing a 3-bedroom townhouse in a safe neighborhood near an excellent school. Not extravagant, but beautiful. Practical. Perfect for a small family. "Part of your compensation package," he explained. "The deed would be in your name, not mine." "Why?" Elena looked up at him. "Why go to these lengths for a waitress?" Dante took the tablet, set it aside, and for a long moment just looked at her. Something shifted in his gaze, a crack in the impenetrable armor. 4 months ago, a man came into Bella Notte. You served him at table 12. Elena frowned, trying to remember. "The nervous man with the briefcase? He was there to assassinate me." Dante's voice remained even, but tension radiated from him. "Had a gun with a silencer. Was paid $2 million to put a bullet in my head during dinner." Her breath caught. "What happened?" "You happened." His eyes held hers. "You spilled a tray of drinks on him. Ruined his suit, his weapon. Caused enough commotion that my security noticed his unusual reaction. Identified him. That was an accident. I tripped." "You didn't trip." Dante moved closer. "The security footage showed everything. You saw him reach into that briefcase under the table. You made a split-second decision and created a distraction. You saved my life, Elena." She shook her head. "I didn't know. Instinct. The same instinct that makes you memorize every face that enters that restaurant, that has you. Positioning yourself near me when unfamiliar people approach." He was close enough now that she could see flecks of amber in his dark eyes. "You've been protecting me without even realizing it. Now I'm returning the favor." Elena's mind raced through countless moments, the times she'd felt uneasy about certain customers, the way she'd unconsciously positioned herself, the vigilance she'd attributed to years of waitressing in rough neighborhoods. "I need someone I can trust," Dante continued. "Someone who sees what others miss. Someone whose loyalty isn't purchased but earned." He paused. "Someone like you. I'm not part of your world." Her voice wavered slightly. "No, you're better than my world." His expression turned grim. "The attempt on my life won't be the last. There's a war coming, Elena, and I need people I can trust, absolutely." The weight of his words hung between them. Not just a job offer and induction into a life she'd carefully avoided. Danger, power, protection, and, "Sophia, you expect me to bring my daughter into this? I expect you to let me protect you both." Dante's voice softened. "The townhouse, private school, security detail discreet but present. Nothing changes for her except opportunity." Elena thought of her daughter's enthusiasm, the canopy bed, the library books. The simple joy of not having to worry constantly about money, about safety, about the future. "If I agree," she said carefully, "I have conditions." Something like respect flickered in his eyes. "Name them." "Sophia never knows what you really do. As far as she's concerned, you're a legitimate businessman." He nodded. "Done. I won't carry a gun or participate in anything illegal. You'll need self-defense training, but I wouldn't ask you to break the law. Elena took a deep breath. And I want college tuition. For me. I was 3 semesters away from my nursing degree when Sophia's father left. Dante's mouth curved slightly. Already arranged. Northwestern's nursing. Program has an opening for the spring semester with your name on it. Of course he'd already known. Already planned. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. One last thing. Elena met his gaze directly. I'm not sleeping with you. That's not part of this arrangement. For the first time, she saw genuine surprise cross his face, followed by something that might have been amusement or offense, perhaps both. I don't blur professional lines, Miss Vasquez. His voice cooled several degrees. Nor do I need to coerce or purchase companionship. That was never part of my offer. Heat rushed to her face. I needed to be clear. Crystal. He stepped back, professional mask firmly back in place. Do we have an agreement? Elena thought of her mother's words, of Sophia's delight, of the crushing weight she'd carried alone for so long. Yes, she said finally. I'll work for you. Good. He extended his hand, and when she took it, his grip was warm and firm. You start tomorrow. Elena's first day began at 5 a.m. with a text message containing an address and the words car arriving in 30 minutes. The sleek black Audi that pulled up outside the guest, house had tinted windows, and a driver who identified himself only as Marcus. He delivered her to a nondescript building in an industrial district. Inside, a woman named Katerina, small, compact, with the graceful movements of a dancer and the watchful eyes of a predator, introduced herself as Dante's security specialist. 6 weeks of basic training, she explained, tossing Elena workout clothes. Self-defense, situational awareness, threat assessment, driving skills, communications protocols. I thought I was being hired as an assistant, not a bodyguard, Elena protested. Katerina's smile was thin. Everyone close to Dante needs to know how to stay alive. Get changed. By 7 a.m., Elena had been thrown to the mat more times than she could count. By 8 a.m., her muscles screamed in protest. By 9 a.m., she'd learned 3 ways to escape if someone grabbed her from behind. You're a natural, Katerina observed, offering a hand to help her up. Good instincts. Raising a daughter in a bad neighborhood teaches you to watch your back, Elena replied, wincing as she stood. At 10 a.m., Dante arrived. He watched from the doorway as Katerina demonstrated how to break a chokehold, his expression unreadable. That's enough for today, he said finally. Elena, with me. He led her to a sleek office upstairs. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, state-of-the-art technology. On the desk sat a laptop, phone, and tablet, all new, all high-end. Your equipment. He gestured to the devices. Encrypted, secure. Everything you need to manage my schedule, communications, and appointments is already loaded. Elena ran her fingers over the laptop. I've never used anything this expensive. You'll learn. Dante handed her a small case. Inside was an ID badge, credit cards, and keys. Company credit card for business expenses. Keys to the office, the car you'll be assigned next week, and your new home. The moving company will have your belongings there by tonight. This is happening very fast, Elena murmured. It needs to. His expression darkened. The Castellano family has been making moves against my territory. The next few weeks will be crucial. He spent the next hour outlining her responsibilities. She would manage his legitimate business meetings, coordinate with his various enterprises, screen visitors and calls, and occasionally accompany him to events. What about your other business? She asked carefully. You'll be aware of it, but not directly involved. Dante's tone made it clear the topic was closed. Your primary concern is ensuring my daily operations run smoothly while I handle larger matters. By evening, Elena's head spun with information. When Dante finally said she could go, Marcus drove her to the townhouse, her townhouse, according to the deed Dante had shown her that morning. It was surreal. Everything from her old apartment had been moved in, arranged thoughtfully, but there were additions, new furniture in the living room, a complete home office setup, a security system that would make Fort Knox jealous. Sophia and her mother arrived an hour later. Her daughter raced through the rooms, squealing with delight at her new bedroom, already painted her favorite shade of blue, and furnished with a canopy bed like the one at the guest house. Mr. Dante said, "This is all ours now." Sophia said, eyes wide with wonder. "Is it true, Mama?" Elena nodded, watching her daughter's joy with a mixture of gratitude and unease. "Yes, mi amor. This is our home now." Later, after Sophia was asleep, Elena's mother found her sitting alone in the kitchen, staring at the contract Dante had given her to review. "You're worried," her mother said, taking a seat beside her. "I've made a deal with the devil, Mama." Elena pushed the papers away. "A very handsome, very dangerous devil." Her mother smiled knowingly. "Ah, so you noticed he's handsome." "That's not the point." "No? Then what is the point, Elena? That he's offering you a way out of poverty? That he's giving Sophia opportunities you've dreamed of? That he looks at you like a man who sees your worth?" "He looks at me like an asset," Elena corrected. "A useful tool." Her mother shook her head. "No man renovates a townhouse overnight, helps a child with homework, or arranges university admission for a useful tool. He sees you, Hija, perhaps more clearly than you see yourself." Later that night, alone in a bedroom nicer than any she'd ever slept in, Elena found herself unable to sleep. Her phone buzzed with a text. "The security training resumes at 7 a.m. Marcus will pick you up at 6:30. D." She typed back, "Will you be there?" The reply came immediately. "I'm always watching, Elena. Sleep well." Those words should have terrified her. Instead, they brought an unexpected comfort as she drifted off to sleep in a house protected by the most dangerous man in Chicago, a man who, for reasons she still didn't fully understand, had decided she was worth protecting. 3 weeks into her new life, Elena discovered the first body. She arrived at the warehouse for her morning security session to find the building eerily quiet. No Katerina waiting with that predatory smile. No security team running drills, just silence and the metallic scent of blood. The man lay crumpled near the training mats, a single bullet wound in the back of his head. Elena recognized him, one of Dante's drivers, a quiet man who'd sometimes brought coffee for everyone during her training sessions. Now his eyes stared at nothing, blood pooling beneath him on the concrete floor. Her training kicked in before panic could. She backed toward the door, reaching for her phone to call Dante, when a hand clamped over her mouth from behind. "Don't scream," Katerina's voice hissed in her ear. "We might not be alone." Elena nodded, and the hand released her. Katerina looked battle-worn, cut on her cheekbone, bruised knuckles, eyes wild with adrenaline. "The Castellanos hit us at 4 a.m., she whispered, leading Elena toward a back exit. "Looking for Dante. Found Miguel instead." She nodded toward the dead driver. "Where's Dante?" Elena kept her voice low, heart hammering against her ribs. "Safe house. We need to get you there now." Outside, Katerina's sleek black Mercedes waited, engine running. She drove like someone expecting pursuit, sharp turns, sudden accelerations, constantly checking mirrors. 20 minutes of silence, while Elena's mind raced through implications. The war Dante had mentioned was no longer theoretical. It had claimed its first casualty. The safe house was a luxury apartment in a high-rise downtown, with security that made Elena's townhouse look like it had paper locks. Biometric scanners, armed guards, bulletproof windows. Dante stood at a floor-to-ceiling window when they entered, phone to his ear, his profile sharp against the morning light. "Find who leaked the location and bring them to me." His voice was ice, controlled but lethal. He ended the call when he saw them, his eyes lingering on Elena. "You're unharmed?" She nodded, suddenly conscious of how she must look still in workout clothes, face pale with shock. "Get her cleaned up," he told Katerina. "Then bring her to my office." The bathroom was marble and chrome, obscenely luxurious given the circumstances. Elena showered mechanically, scrubbing away fear with hot water and expensive soap. The clothes waiting for her weren't her own designer jeans, silk blouse, even the undergarments still had tags attached. Her size, of course. Dante missed nothing. When she emerged, Katerina led her to a study where Dante waited with his consigliere Stefano, an older man with silver temples and calculating eyes who'd been introduced during her first week. "The Castellanos made their move," Dante said without preamble. "They want me to think it was just a warning, but they were looking for something specific." "What?" Elena asked. "Information." His eyes met hers. "About shipments, territories, alliances. They didn't find it." "How did they know about the warehouse?" she asked. Stefano's eyebrows rose slightly at her question, but Dante just nodded, as if expecting it. Someone talked, he replied. Someone close. Miguel? Elena asked, thinking of the dead driver. No. Dante's expression hardened. Miguel died because he refused to talk, but someone else did. The implications hung heavy in the air. A traitor within Dante's organization. Someone trusted enough to know about the warehouse, about schedules, about operations. What happens now? She asked. Now, Dante said, we find the rat and make an example of them. He turned to Katerina. Double security on Elena's townhouse. Move her mother and daughter to the lake house tonight. No one knows about that location. I should be with Sofia, Elena protested. You should be alive for Sofia, Dante countered. The Castellanos know you work for me now. That makes you a target. But this isn't negotiable. His tone left no room for argument. I'll have them call you once they're settled. After Katerina left to make arrangements, Stefano excused himself, leaving Elena alone with Dante. Tension radiated from him as he moved to a cabinet and poured 2 glasses of whiskey, offering one to her. I don't drink in the morning, she said. Today might be a good day to start. But he set the glass aside without insistence, studying her with intensity that made her skin prickle. You saw your first body today. Yes. You handled it well. I've worked in emergency rooms. Death isn't new to me. Murder is different from a patient coding. I took a step closer. This is my world, Elena. Blood and violence and loyalty purchased with fear. Are you reconsidering our arrangement? The question surprised her. Are you giving me a way out? No. His honesty was brutal. I'm asking if I need to worry about your resolve. Elena considered her answer carefully. 3 weeks in Dante's orbit had shown her glimpses of the brutality beneath his controlled exterior, the coldness when he spoke of enemies, the implicit threats that accompanied his business dealings, the way people cowered in his presence. But she'd also seen other things. How he listened when she spoke. How he remembered details about Sofia. How his rare smiles transformed his face into something almost gentle. I made a deal, she said finally. I keep my promises. Something like relief crossed his features. Good, because I need you now more than ever. For what? To help me find the traitor, he explained his plan. Elena would continue as his assistant, but with heightened access present at meetings she'd previously been excluded from, included in conversations about territory and business, visible as his trusted right hand. They'll talk around you, he said. Most of them still see you as the waitress I elevated on a whim. They'll make mistakes. You're using me as bait, she realized. I'm using you as my eyes and ears. He moved closer, until she could see flecks of gold in his dark irises. No one will touch you, Elena. You have my word. The same word you gave Miguel? The question escaped before she could stop it. Dante's expression darkened. Miguel was family. His death will be avenged tenfold. His hand rose, hesitated, then gently tucked a strand of damp hair behind her ear. But you're something else entirely. The touch lingered, electric against her skin. For a dangerous moment, Elena thought he might kiss her. For a more dangerous moment, she wanted him to. Instead, he stepped back, professional mask slipping back, into place. Your new security detail arrives in an hour. Until then, stay in this apartment. After Dante left, Elena called her mother, ensuring Sofia would be told their sudden move to the lake house was a special vacation. Then she stood at the window, looking out at the city where somewhere, someone had decided she was worth killing to hurt Dante Rossi. The next month transformed Elena in ways she hadn't thought possible. Outwardly, she became what everyone expected, the boss's competent shadow, elegant in designer clothes, managing his schedule with quiet efficiency. She attended meetings where millions of dollars changed hands with nothing more than a nod, sat beside Dante at dinners with politicians and criminals. I learned to recognize the subtle power dynamics that controlled Chicago's underworld. Inwardly, she became a hunter, watching for the traitor, cataloging inconsistencies, recording which of Dante's captains asked questions they shouldn't, which ones disappeared at convenient times, which ones seemed too interested in her sudden prominence. And Dante watched her watching them, a dangerous dance of trust and verification. Their days became an intimate partnership of shared glances and subtle signals. She learned to read his micro-expressions, the slight tightening around his eyes when someone said something suspicious, the barely perceptible nod when he wanted her to pursue a line of conversation. Antonio's running the North Side collections today. She mentioned one afternoon, reviewing Dante's schedule as they rode in his Bentley between meetings. Unusual for a Tuesday. Is it? Dante appeared absorbed in his phone, but she knew he was listening intently. He's always at his daughter's dance recitals on Tuesdays. Has been since I started. Elena kept her tone casual. Must be important to change his routine. That evening, Antonio was called to account for the discrepancy. His explanation, a cancelled recital, checked out, but Elena had proven her value. She noticed patterns others missed. Nights were the hardest. Elena stayed in a guest suite at Dante's penthouse. The safe house had become their permanent arrangement after a suspicious car was spotted near her townhouse. Her mother and Sofia remained at the lake house, protected by Dante's men. She spoke to them daily, heart aching at the sound of her daughter's voice, at the stories of swimming and boat rides that made their protective custody sound like a wonderful vacation. "When are you coming to see us, Mama?" Sofia asked each night. "Soon, mi amor. I'm just very busy with work." "Mr. Dante works you too hard," her daughter declared with 7-year-old indignation. "Tell him I said so." One night, unable to sleep, Elena wandered to the penthouse kitchen for tea. She found Dante already there, staring out at the city lights, glass of whiskey in hand. "Nightmares?" he asked without turning. "Worry," she corrected. "It's been a month. The Castellanos are patient. They're waiting for us to make a mistake. And our traitor? Still hidden." He turned to face her, but narrowing down. Elena moved to the kettle, aware of his eyes tracking her movements. She wore only a silk nightgown and robe, another addition to her wardrobe that had appeared without explanation. The silence stretched between them, comfortable yet charged. "Do you miss them?" he asked suddenly. "Your mother and Sofia?" "Every moment." He nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Family is everything." "Is that why you do this?" She gestured vaguely around them. "For family? My father built an empire from nothing. My brother squandered half of it before his death." Dante's voice held old pain. "I protect what remains." "And who protects you?" The question seemed to surprise him. "I have guards, security." "That's not what I meant." Their eyes met across the kitchen, the question hanging between them. Elena knew she was crossing a line, moving from professional to personal territory. But after a month in his world, the boundaries had blurred beyond recognition. "No one," he finally answered. "That's the price of this life. Sounds lonely." "It is." No artifice now, just raw honesty. Until recently. Before she could respond, his phone rang, the secure line reserved for emergencies. Dante's expression shifted instantly from vulnerability to cold calculation. "Problème at the docks," he said after hanging up. "The Castellanos are making a move on our shipment. I need to go." "I'll come with you." "No." His voice was firm. "Too dangerous." "I'm your eyes and ears, remember?" Elena set down her mug. "And if this is connected to our traitor, I need to see who responds, who doesn't." Dante studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Get dressed. 5 minutes." The docks were chaos when they arrived, gunfire, shouting, the acrid smell of smoke as a warehouse burned. Dante's men had engaged the Castellano soldiers in a firefight that echoed across, in the water. Elena stayed in the armored SUV as instructed, watching through bulletproof glass as Dante conferred with his captains, issued orders, transformed fully into the ruthless leader his enemies feared. Movement caught her eye, a figure slipping between shipping containers, headed not toward the fight but away from it. A familiar figure. Franco, one of Dante's newer captains, talking urgently on his phone. Elena's heart raced. This could be nothing, or everything. Franco had access to schedules, locations, shipments. He'd been increasingly present at meetings since Miguel's death. And now he was separate from the others, hidden, making a call during an attack. She should tell Dante. That was the plan: observe, report, let him handle it. Instead, she slipped out of the SUV, staying in shadows as she followed Franco. Katerina's training guided her movements, silent, aware, tracking without being seen. Franco moved farther from the fighting, deeper into a maze of containers, still talking urgently. Elena crept close enough to hear snippets. Not what we agreed, too many men, Dante's here. She reached for her phone to record, to capture proof, when Franco suddenly turned. Their eyes met across 20 feet of concrete. Time slowed. Recognition. Shock. Then Franco's hand moved to his jacket, reaching for his gun. Elena ran. Container metal blurred as she sprinted, heart hammering. A shot cracked behind her, the bullet pinging off metal inches from her head. She ducked, changed direction, praying her slight frame and dark clothes would help her disappear among the shadows. "Bitch," Franco's voice echoed. "You're dead." Another shot, closer. Elena spotted a gap between containers and squeezed through, scraping her arm raw against rusted metal. The small space opened to a wider area and directly into the path of two armed men in Castellano colors. They were as surprised as she was. Elena reacted on instinct, using Katerina's training. She drove her, knee into the first man's groin, grabbed his gun arm as he doubled over, twisted until something snapped. His scream covered the sound of his weapon clattering to the ground. The second man raised his gun. Elena dropped, rolled, came up with the fallen weapon, fired twice. The shots were deafening in the enclosed space. The man crumpled, blood blooming across his chest. Footsteps pounded behind her, Franco catching up. Elena ran again, clutching the stolen gun, mind racing. She needed to get back to Dante, to tell him what she'd seen, what she'd heard. The betrayal confirmed. A figure stepped into her path. She raised the gun, finger tensing on the trigger, then froze. Dante. His own weapon was raised, lowering only when he recognized her. Blood spattered his pristine suit, someone else's. His eyes widened at the gun in her hand, the blood on her sleeve, the wild terror on her face. "Franco," she gasped. "It's Franco. He was on the phone with someone, talking about you being here, that it wasn't the plan." Dante's expression hardened. He spoke into his radio, giving commands in Italian too rapid for her to follow. Then he gripped her arm, pulling her back toward safety. "You were supposed to stay in the car," he said, voice tight with controlled fury. "I saw him leaving the fight. It seemed wrong. You could have been killed. I think I killed someone." The reality of what she'd done crashed over her. The Castellano man. "I shot him." Dante stopped, turning to face her fully. "You did what you had to do to survive." His hands came up to frame her face, thumbs brushing her cheekbones. "Listen to me, Elena. This is war. There are casualties in war. I'm not a soldier. No." His eyes held hers, intense with something beyond concern. "You're extraordinary." Gunfire erupted nearby, breaking the moment. Dante pulled her behind a container as bullets ricocheted off metal. He returned fire, 3 precise shots that ended in a distant cry of pain. They made it back, to the SUV, Katerina covering their retreat with terrifying efficiency. As they sped away from the docks, reports came in through the radio Franco had escaped, but several Castellano soldiers were dead. The shipment was secure. Elena sat silently as the adrenaline ebbed, leaving her shaking. She'd killed a man tonight. Crossed a line she could never uncross, her hands the hands that had cared for patients, that braided Sophia's hair, that once healed rather than harmed were stained in ways soap could never cleanse. "You're in shock," Dante said softly, watching her. "It will pass." "Will it?" She looked at her trembling hands. "How many people have you killed?" "Enough to know the first is the hardest." He didn't touch her, giving her space even in the confined car. "You did what was necessary." "Is that how you justify it all?" "Necessity? I don't justify it, I accept it." His voice held no apology. "This is the world we live in, Elena. Brutal, unfair, governed by strength. The reader, strong protect their own. The weak perish. And which am I, strong or weak? You know the answer to that." Back at the penthouse, Dante insisted a doctor examine the cut on her arm. She submitted mechanically, mind still at the docks, still seeing the Castellano soldier falling, still feeling the gun's recoil against her palm. After the doctor left, Dante brought her a glass of bourbon. This time she accepted it, welcoming the burn down her throat, the temporary numbing of frayed nerves. "Franco has disappeared," he told her, sitting across from her in the living room. "His apartment's empty, bank accounts drained. He knew I saw him," Elena said. "He'll run to the Castellanos for protection." "Let him run." Dante's smile was cold. "I have people everywhere. He won't see another sunrise." The casual certainty of death in his voice no longer shocked her. After tonight, how could it? She'd become part of this violent world in the most fundamental way. "What happens now?" she asked, echoing her question from weeks ago, but with new weight behind it. Dante studied her for a long moment. Now we end this war before it consumes us all. How? Antonio Castellano has a daughter, he said. 17, the apple of his eye. Tomorrow she attends a charity gala at the Art Institute. I've arranged for her to receive a message. Horror bloomed in Elena's chest. You would target a child? I would send a message. His eyes held hers. No bloodshed, just fear, enough to bring Antonio to the negotiating table. And if it were Sophia, if someone threatened her to get to me? The question landed like a physical blow. Dante's expression changed, something vulnerable bleeding through the mask of the ruthless boss. That's different. Why? Because she's mine? Elena stood, anger replacing shock. Antonio Castellano loves his daughter the same way I love Sophia, the same way your father loved you. Using children as pawns that makes you no better than the monsters you fight. This is how the game is played. Dante's voice hardened. Sentimentality gets you killed. Then why protect Sophia? Why move my mother to safety? Why care about any of it? She stepped closer, challenging him. You talk about strength and weakness, about necessity and survival, but you've shown me something different. What? That you're more than this. She gestured around them, at the luxury built on violence and fear. That somewhere under the monster is a man who helps a 7-year-old with math homework. Who remembers how I take my coffee? Who looks at me like... She stopped, realizing how close they'd become, how the air between them had changed. Like what? Dante asked, voice low. Like I matter beyond my usefulness. His hands came up slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, they framed her face with surprising gentleness. You've never been just useful to me, Elena. His thumbs brushed her cheekbones, exactly as they had at the docks. From the moment you collapsed in my restaurant, I knew you were something exceptional. The admission hung between them, charged with weeks of tension, of growing trust, of boundaries respected, and now, finally, acknowledged as the artificial constructs they'd become. Elena made the choice consciously. She stepped into the space between them, hands rising to rest against his chest, feeling his heartbeat accelerate beneath her palm. The man beneath the monster, revealed in the simple human response to her touch. If you threaten that girl, she said softly, something breaks between us. Something I don't think either of us wants broken. Dante's eyes searched hers, conflict evident in his expression, the crime boss weighing strategic advantage against the plea of the woman in his arms. Find another way, Elena whispered. For me. The kiss, when it came, held the force of weeks of restraint. His lips claimed hers with hunger tempered by unexpected tenderness. Hands sliding into her hair, body, pressing her closer. Elena responded with equal fervor, weeks of denial crumbling beneath the undeniable chemistry between them. When they finally broke apart, breathing heavily, the world had shifted irrevocably. Employee and employer no longer defined them. Now they were simply Dante and Elena, two people caught in a dangerous orbit, pulled together by forces stronger than either could resist. I'll find another way, he promised against her lips. For you. Outside, the night sky brightened with the first hint of dawn, a new day breaking over a city at war, over a woman transformed by violence and unexpected love, over a man with blood on his hands and redemption within reach. The night after their first kiss changed everything. Elena sat on the edge of Dante's bed, watching him sleep, his face relaxed. Years younger, without the constant vigilance that defined his waking hours. Moonlight spilled across his bare shoulders, illuminating scars she'd traced with her fingertips hours earlier. Each one had a story. A knife fight when he was 16, a bullet that nearly killed him at 22, the marks of a life built in violence. She'd given herself to him completely, surrendering to feelings she'd denied for weeks. Their lovemaking had been passionate yet surprisingly tender. Dante Rossi, feared by Chicago's most hardened criminals, had touched her with reverence, whispered her name like a prayer, held her afterward as if she might disappear. Now she slipped from the bed, wrapping herself in his discarded shirt. The penthouse was silent except for the distant hum of the city below. Elena moved to the floor-to-ceiling windows. Chicago spread before her like a glittering tapestry. Somewhere out there, Franco was hiding. The Castellanos were planning their next move. War continued while she found unexpected peace in the arms of a man who orchestrated violence with the same hands that had held her so gently. Having regrets? Dante's voice came from behind her, sleep-roughened and quiet. She turned to find him watching her, propped on one elbow, thinking, Dangerous pastime. He sat up, sheet pooling at his waist. Especially at 3 a.m, Elena smiled despite herself. I killed a man yesterday. Slept with the most dangerous man in Chicago tonight. Thinking seems appropriate. Dante rose, moving to stand behind her at the window. His arms encircled her waist, pulling her back against his chest. You're in shock. It's normal. Is it normal to feel nothing? She leaned into his warmth. I keep waiting for remorse, for horror, but it's just empty, like it happened to someone else. The mind protects itself. His lips brushed her temple. The feeling will come later, or it won't. Some people aren't built to break. Is that what happened to you? You didn't break? His silence was answer enough. They stood together, silhouettes against the cityscape. Two people transformed by circumstances neither had chosen, but both now embraced. What happens now? Elena asked finally. Now we end this war, Dante replied, his voice regaining its edge of command. But not with the Castellano girl. You were right about that. Then how? We go to the source. His arms tightened around her. Franco. Dawn found them in Dante's study, reviewing intelligence reports. Franco had been spotted at a Castellano safe house in Cicero, heavily guarded but accessible. Elena watched Dante transform back into the crime boss, issuing orders, reviewing tactical plans, coordinating with captains, who carefully avoided mentioning the fact that she now wore yesterday's clothes with her hair loose around her shoulders. Only Katerina acknowledged the shift, with a knowing look and a discreet thumbs up that made Elena blush despite herself. I'm coming with you, Elena said when Dante prepared to leave for the strike on Franco's location. No. His response was immediate, brooking no argument. This is an execution, not a negotiation. I found him. I want to see it through. Dante's eyes softened momentarily before hardening again. The man tried to kill you, Elena. I won't risk you being anywhere near when we take him out. I've already killed for you, she countered. I think we're past protection. That was self-defense. This is different. How? Because this is vengeance. His voice dropped, intimate and dangerous. And vengeance is ugly, Elena. It changes how you see me. The truth of his words hung between them. Their night together had been beautiful, passionate, built on the fantasy that the monster could be separated from the man. Watching him execute Franco would shatter that illusion. Maybe I need to see it, Elena said quietly. All of it. The man and the monster. Dante studied her for a long moment, then nodded once. Stay with Katerina. Do exactly as she says. The Castellano safe house was a nondescript bungalow on a quiet street, the kind of place no one noticed, which made it perfect for hiding. A traitor. Dante's team moved with military precision, surrounding the property while Elena watched from an SUV 2 blocks away, Katerina beside her with a sniper rifle ready. You love him, Katerina said suddenly, eyes never leaving her scope. Elena didn't deny it. Is it that obvious? To me. Katerina adjusted something on her weapon. I've worked for Dante for 8 years. Never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. And how's that? Like he's memorizing you. Like he's afraid you'll disappear. She glanced sideways at Elena. Like you're worth dying for. Before Elena could respond, the radio crackled. Gunfire erupted at the house sharp, controlled bursts followed by screams. Elena's heart hammered as she watched smoke rise from the back of the property. They've breached, Katerina narrated calmly. 2 Castellano soldiers down. Dante's moving to the 2nd floor. The minutes stretched like hours, each burst of gunfire making Elena flinch. Finally, the radio crackled again. Package secured, came Dante's voice. Bring her in. Katerina drove them to the house, now eerily quiet. Inside, the aftermath of violence was everywhere: broken furniture, blood-spattered walls, bodies covered with sheets. Elena stepped carefully, following Katerina upstairs to what had once been a bedroom. Franco knelt on the floor, hands zip-tied behind his back, face bloody and swollen. Dante stood over him, gun held casually at his side, expression blank in a way that chilled Elena more than rage would have. Tell her, Dante commanded. Tell her why you betrayed us. Franco spat blood onto the carpet. Money, what else? His eyes found Elena's, hatred burning through the fear. 2 million from the Castellanos. Would have been worth it if that bitch hadn't followed me. The Castellanos wanted our shipment routes. Dante continued, voice detached. Our supplier names, Our distribution network. He circled Franco slowly. Also, Antonio could expand west without the dot, paying the proper taxes. Business, Franco muttered. Just business. Miguel was family, Dante said softly. His wife is pregnant with their second child. Was that just business too? Franco's eyes darted around the room, seeking escape where there was none. Collateral damage. I didn't mean for him to die. He was just there. Elena watched Dante's face transform subtle changes that signaled the final surrender to the monster within. The calculated violence of the crime boss, replacing any trace of the man who'd held her through the night. Elena, Dante said quietly, you should leave now. She should have. The wise moral choice was to walk away, to preserve some separation between herself and what was about to happen. Instead, she moved closer. No, she said firmly. I stay. Something flashed in Dante's eyes: surprise, respect, perhaps even pride. He nodded once, then turned back to Franco. Last words? He asked, raising his gun. Franco looked up at Elena, then back to Dante. She won't save you, he said with sudden clarity. The things you've done, they stain everything you touch, even her. Dante fired once. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Franco slumped forward, dead instantly, the back of his head a ruin of blood and bone. Elena didn't flinch, didn't look away. She watched Dante lower the gun, watched him signal to his men to clean up, watched him transform from executioner back to businessman in the space of seconds. Their eyes met across the room, no words needed. She had seen the monster, the true face of Dante Rossi, the violence he commanded, the death he delivered without hesitation, and she was still standing, still breathing, still his. The drive back to the penthouse passed in silence, Elena processing what she'd witnessed, Dante giving her space to decide if she could live with the reality of who he was. When they arrived, he led her to his private office, poured 2 glasses of bourbon, and waited. Franco was right, she said finally. About the stain. Dante's expression remained carefully neutral. Yes, but he was wrong about me. She moved closer, taking the glass from his hand. I'm not here to save you, Dante. I'm not here to change you. Then why are you here? Because I choose to be. Elena met his gaze directly. Because I've seen the worst of you and I'm still standing. Still choosing you. The tension left his shoulders, a subtle shift most wouldn't notice. But Elena had learned to read his body language as clearly as spoken words. Relief, gratitude, something deeper she wasn't ready to name. The Castellanos will retaliate, he said. Franco was under their protection. Antonio will see this as a declaration of total war. What do we do? The simple "we" shifted something in Dante's expression, the final acknowledgement that they were truly partners now. Not employer and employee, not protector and protected, but equals in this dangerous new reality. We end it, he said, permanently. The next 3 days passed in a whirlwind of strategy sessions and security preparations. Elena moved seamlessly into her new role, not just Dante's assistant or lover, but his partner in every sense. She sat at his right hand during meetings with his captains, offered insights on Castellano weaknesses, coordinated intelligence from their network of informants. By night, they fell into each other with growing desperation, their lovemaking tinged with the knowledge that everything could shatter at any moment. They rarely spoke of feelings, neither ready to name the emotion building between them, but their bodies communicated what words couldn't. On the 4th day, news came that changed everything. Antonio Castellano had called for a sit-down, a formal meeting between families to negotiate peace terms. The request came through traditional channels, with guarantees of safe passage and neutral territory. It's a trap, Caterina argued during the strategy meeting. They're desperate after losing Franco. They'll try to take you out. Possibly, Dante agreed, but refusing makes us look weak, afraid. The location is secure, Stefano added. The old Marconi restaurant. Neutral ground for generations. Sacred territory for our kind. Elena watched the debate unfold, analyzing the variables. When is this meeting? Tomorrow night, Dante answered. 8 o'clock. That's convenient, she observed. Rushing it. Not giving us time to prepare properly. Exactly why I think it's a setup, Caterina insisted. Dante turned to Elena. Your thoughts? She considered carefully, aware that lives hung on her assessment. We go, but not as expected. Change the variables they're counting on. A slow smile spread across Dante's face as she outlined her plan, a counter-ambush designed to expose any Castellano treachery while giving them a legitimate path to peace, if their intentions were genuine. That night, as they lay together in the darkness of his bedroom, Dante traced patterns on Elena's bare shoulder. "If something happens to me tomorrow—" "Don't," she interrupted. "Nothing will happen. If it does," he continued firmly, "there's a contingency, papers in the safe, everything you need to take Sophia and your mother anywhere in the world. New identities, accounts, properties. You'd be secure for life." Elena propped herself up on one elbow, studying his face in the moonlight. "I'm not planning your funeral, Dante. Planning is what keeps us alive." He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, a gesture that had become achingly familiar. "Promise me you'll run if things go wrong. Promise you'll protect yourself and Sophia." The seriousness in his eyes made her throat tight. "I promise," she whispered. His relief was palpable. "There's something else," he said, reaching into the nightstand drawer. He withdrew a small box, opening it to reveal a delicate platinum necklace with a single teardrop diamond pendant. "I want you to wear this tomorrow. It's beautiful," she said as he fastened it around her neck. "It's more than jewelry." His fingers lingered at her nape. "There's a tracker embedded in the setting. If we're separated, if something happens, my people can find you." The weight of the pendant against her skin felt suddenly significant, not just protection, but a declaration. Dante Rossi, who trusted no one, was ensuring that Elena would never be lost to him. "Thank you," she said, understanding the gift represented far more than safety. He kissed her then, deep and desperate, as if memorizing her taste, her touch, her essence, as if it might be the last time. The Marconi restaurant had been closed for renovations, making it perfect for a clandestine meeting between warring factions. Elena arrived with Dante, dressed impeccably in a black sheath dress, the diamond pendant gleaming at her throat. Caterina had positioned snipers on surrounding rooftops. Stefano had men inside disguised as renovation workers. Every contingency planned, every escape route secured. Antonio Castellano waited inside with his consigliera and 3 captains, a small group, as agreed. He was older than Elena expected, distinguished with silver temples and the confident bearing of old money. His eyes narrowed slightly when he saw Elena enter with Dante. "The famous nurse," he said, his voice cultured despite the implied insult. "I didn't realize this was a social occasion, Rossi." "Elena Vasquez is my partner," Dante replied smoothly. "She speaks with my voice." Antonio's eyebrows rose, but he gestured to the table. "Shall we discuss terms?" The negotiation began cordially, enough territories defined. Shipment routes allocated, mutual non-aggression pacts outlined. But Elena noticed the subtle tells. Antonio checking his watch repeatedly, his consigliere's excessive sweating, the way one captain kept glancing toward the kitchen. She caught Dante's eye, a nearly imperceptible nod conveying her suspicion. He continued the discussion without pause, but his hand slipped beneath the table, texting Caterina the prearranged signal. "One last item," Antonio said, checking his watch again. "The matter of Franco's execution on our property." "Franco was mine before he was yours," Dante replied. "His betrayal earned his death." "On my territory," Antonio insisted. "Without permission. Without respect. Would you have given permission?" Elena asked, speaking for the first time. All eyes turned to her. "If Dante had asked properly, would you have handed over the man who betrayed him?" Antonio studied her with new interest. "No," he admitted. "Honor would have demanded protection. Then why pretend this is about protocol?" She leaned forward slightly. "This is about power. About saving face after backing the wrong horse." A dangerous silence fell. Antonio's consigliera whispered something urgent, but Antonio waved him off, eyes locked on Elena. "You speak boldly for someone so new to our world," he said finally. "I speak honestly," she countered. "Something rare in your experience, I imagine." To everyone's surprise, Antonio laughed a genuine bark of amusement. "I like her, Rossi. She has spine." The tension fractured, not gone but reduced. Antonio glanced at his watch again, then made a decision. He nodded to his consigliera, who produced a phone and made a brief call. "I've called off the men in the kitchen," Antonio said bluntly. "And I assume you'll do the same for whatever countermeasure you've arranged?" Dante's expression remained impassive as he texted Caterina. "Consider it done." "Your nurse was right," Antonio continued. "This was about saving face. Franco promised us access to your operation. When he failed, it became a matter of pride. Pride is expensive, Dante observed. So is war. Antonio extended his hand across the table. Peace benefits us both. The terms are fair. We have an agreement? Dante studied the offered hand for a long moment, then clasped it, firmly. We have an agreement. As they rose to leave, Antonio addressed Elena directly. Ms. Vasquez, a word of advice from someone who's seen it all? This life takes everything eventually. Make sure what you gain is worth what you'll lose. The warning followed Elena out of the restaurant, settling in her chest like a cold weight. Outside, Caterina confirmed that Castellano hitmen had indeed been positioned in the kitchen, 6 armed men ready to storm the meeting at Antonio's signal. Dante's countermeasure explosive charges under the table would have ensured mutual destruction. We were seconds from bloodshed, Elena realized as they drove away. If he'd given the order. But he didn't, Dante said, taking her hand. Your instincts saved lives tonight. Or maybe he just decided war wasn't worth the cost. The outcome is what matters. He brought her hand to his lips. The war is over. We won. But Antonio's warning echoed in her mind. This life takes everything eventually. 3 days later, Elena finally returned to the lake house. Sophia launched herself into her mother's arms the moment she stepped through the door, nearly knocking her over with the force of her embrace. Mama, you were gone forever. Elena held her daughter tight, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling the solid reality of her small body. I know, mi amor. I'm sorry. Work was very complicated. Mr. Dante kept calling to check on us, Sophia informed her. He said you were being very brave. Elena's eyes met her mother's over Sophia's head, seeing the knowing concern there. Did he now? Uh-huh. And he said when you came back, we could all have a special dinner to celebrate. As if summoned by the conversation, Dante appeared in the doorway. He'd driven Elena personally, insisting on seeing her reunited with her family. He stood watching their embrace with an expression Elena had never seen before, something raw and vulnerable beneath his usual control. Dante! Sophia broke, free, and ran to him. To Elena's surprise, he crouched to meet her daughter at eye level, accepting her hug with natural ease. Did you finish that book I brought you? He asked. Sophia nodded enthusiastically. The one about the girl detective. I solved the mystery before the end. I knew you would. You're very smart. He glanced up at Elena, something unspoken passing between them. Would you and your abuela give me a minute with your mother? Sophia looked between them, then whispered loudly, Are you going to ask her to marry you? Elena choked. Dante's eyes widened fractionally before his composure returned. Not today, pequeña detective, but something important. After they left, Elena turned to him. I'm sorry about that. She's imagination runs wild. I want you to come back, Dante interrupted. To the penthouse, all of you. The request caught her off guard. Why? Because I sleep better with you beside me. His honesty was disarming. Because the war is over, but there are always new threats. Because He hesitated, struggling with words that didn't come easily to him. Because I need you, Elena. Not just as my partner or my lover, but as the person who sees me, all of me. The admission hung between them, profound in its simplicity. Dante Rossi, who commanded an empire through fear and violence, confessing that he needed her not for protection or strategy or convenience, but for himself. Antonio said this life takes everything eventually, she said quietly. It can. He moved closer, taking her hands. But it can give too. Protection, power, purpose. His eyes held hers. Family. The word resonated between them. Family, the one thing Dante valued above all else. The one thing Elena had fought to preserve since Sophia's birth. What are you really asking, Dante? He took a deep breath. I'm asking you to choose this life, fully, with all its dangers and benefits. To choose me, knowing exactly who and what I am. The moment stretched, between them, fraught with possibility. Elena thought of everything that had happened since she collapsed in his restaurant. The violence, the fear, the unexpected passion, the strange sense of belonging she'd found at his side. She thought of Sophia, who deserved safety and stability. She thought of herself, who had finally found someone who saw her strength rather than trying to protect her from it. Yes, she said finally, but I have conditions. A smile tugged at his mouth. Of course you do. Sophia's education comes first. Nothing interferes with that. Already arranged. The best schools, tutors if needed. My nursing degree. I finish it. I wouldn't have it any other way. And I won't be just your woman, Dante. She met his gaze steadily. I'm your partner. In everything. Equal voice, equal respect. His expression softened. You already are. He pulled her close then, kissing her with a tenderness that belied his dangerous reputation. Elena yielded to it, to him, to the future they were choosing together. A future built on an impossible foundation of violence and love, power and vulnerability, danger and protection. 6 months later, Elena stood at the same window where she'd once contemplated the city as an outsider. Now Chicago spread before her like a familiar map, territories, alliances, businesses, all connected to the man who slept peacefully in their bed. Her hand drifted to the slight swell of her stomach. The secret she'd confirmed just that morning. Dante's child. A new life growing within her, binding her irrevocably to this world she'd entered by chance and embraced by choice. Behind her, Dante stirred. Come back to bed, he murmured, voice rough with sleep. In a minute, she smiled, turning to watch him, powerful even in repose, dangerous and beloved in equal measure. In the months since the Castellano peace, they'd reshaped his organization, more legitimate businesses, fewer violent enforcers, strategic alliances rather than intimidation. Elena's influence had tempered Dante's instincts for blood with her preference for negotiation. They weren't going legitimate. Such a thing was impossible given their history, but they were building something sustainable, something with a future. What are you thinking about? Dante asked, propping himself up on one elbow. Elena crossed to the bed, taking his hand and placing it against her stomach. His eyes widened as understanding dawned. Are you certain? He whispered. She nodded, watching emotions play across his face. Shock, joy, and finally, a fierce protectiveness that made her heart ache. A family, he said, voice thick with feeling. Our family. Dante pulled her down beside him, one hand still resting on her stomach, the other cradling her face as if she were made of precious glass. In that moment, the monster was nowhere to be found, just the man, vulnerable and human and hers. Elena had entered his world by chance, a waitress who collapsed, a nurse who observed too much, a woman who caught the attention of the most dangerous man in Chicago. She'd stayed by choice, embracing the darkness and the light, the violence and the protection, the complex, contradictory truth of loving someone like Dante Rossi. As morning light spilled across their bed, illuminating the future they'd build together, a future of power tempered by compassion, of strength guided by love, Elena knew that some collapses weren't endings but beginnings. Her fall that night in the restaurant hadn't been a moment of weakness, but the first step toward a strength she'd never imagined possible. In Dante's arms, with new life growing within her, surrounded by the empire they now shared, Elena Vasquez found the truth Antonio Castellano had tried to warn her about. This life did take everything eventually. But what it gave in return: purpose, protection, passionate love, and the power to shape your own destiny, made the price worth paying. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.